Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 563 of F5 Live Refreshing Technology for Sunday, June 7th, 2020. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Zoom's plans are out of focus, Epic Games is shining a light on mobile stores, and Google users are in the dark. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or Snapchat, on our live stream platforms, livestream.com, Mixer, Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, or Facebook, through a podcatcher like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or a myriad of other options, on the radio or on our website, PLUGHITZlive.com. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are 3 ways that you can do that. You can join us live on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us during the show and give your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. The second way is, if you're in the New York area or you want to listen online, you can go to 88.1 WMLD Radio on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern. And of course, you can always subscribe at PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and more. And of course, find all the ways that you can watch or listen. Obviously, for our regulars, you'll know that we were off last week. In the same vein as Google and Sony, we kind of decided that last week would be a good one for not our brand of goofy, I think. Avram and I tend to be goofy,
Yeah.
and it seemed appropriate not to bring our goofiness.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it's there's very serious things happening right now, particularly here in the United States. I say here in the United States for our international, but possibly international viewers. So, this week at Tom's Hardware, we, did something that in my time we've never done, which is we all sat down together as an editorial team and we put out an article about how people could help with a situation and things that we've donated to, individually. And, there's a lot of really serious things going on in the world that are obviously more important than new product launches and things like that. But obviously there's a lot in technology. There's a lot in technology to talk about, and there are things. I think we certainly have an article right up on tomshardware.com homepage that gives people some resources where they can learn more about history of discrimination in the United States and how they can be part of the solution. So it is and has been a very serious time with things that are more important than tech news.
Yeah, for sure. And on our side, we didn't write or publish anything, but this week, with our relationship with the Drew Project, on Wednesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, we will be doing a live conversation between our Vice President Brandon and the YouTuber Kingsley, who is I've been watching his stuff. He's a cool guy. So they're going to talk about kind of the same topics, discrimination and things like that. And it's going to be a really interesting thing. It'll be available on Facebook. If you're watching us on Mixer or Twitch on our channel, it'll be there as well. So the Drew Project on Facebook is the best way to find that. And then if you're having, if you're in a weird mental place right now, on Thursday evening, we have a mental health chat, which will be good too. So you can, and again, if you're on Mixer or Twitch, it'll be here. Otherwise, it'll be on Facebook on the Drew Project. So With that, let's get back to a little bit more normal us. I'm really excited to announce that tomorrow I will be receiving the new Monster Illuminescence product. So if you guys have been following that drama on our YouTube channel, the first generation products, like what I'm holding here in my hand, are about to be replaced with a whole new line of cool stuff that's going to have smartphone interaction and all kinds of they're a smart product instead of just a remote control product, and they're made by a different company, so hopefully we won't deal with the defect issues. So I'm really excited to get those. I have no idea what's coming. I just know I have a case of products from the new line coming. I'm so excited to see them in action because we saw them kind of passive during our interview at CES, and now we're ready to see them in action. So I'm super excited about that. That's what my week's going to be.
I would, yeah. I mean, I would like to get some more colorful lights around here. So I got, we'll get into this in my segment later, but obviously, continue to have lots of Raspberry Pi stuff going on. I also have this keyboard here that I just got that I'm reviewing. This is the Lenovo TrackPoint 2 wireless keyboard. So if, like me, you really, really like having a track point, you can have it on this wireless keyboard, which is both Bluetooth and 2.4 gigahertz. And I believe it also will do Type-C wireless. It charges over Type-C.
Okay.
So you can, this could be really cool for, and I got to try this, is switching back and forth between different computers that you have on your desk, because if you can switch quickly, I think there's also maybe a couple of Bluetooth profiles. If you can switch quickly between profiles, that means, okay, I got my Raspberry Pi over here, I've got another PC over there, I've got this PC over there, and rather than having to go to different keyboards or plug and unplug, if you could easily switch back and forth, that could be good. Now, obviously,
For sure.
This is not. Yeah. Oh, sorry, that's my daughter. Anyway, obviously, this is not a replacement for like a mechanical keyboard.
Sure.
It's got the ThinkPad feel, which among laptops is about as good as it gets. But on your desktop, obviously, mechanical keyboard is better. But this would probably be an excellent media keyboard, and good for things like, when you're working on projects or things like Raspberry Pi, where space on your desk and elsewhere is at a premium, or you want to work on your lap. I saw this was shown first at CES, and I was real excited to check it out, and I just got it in the mail. So I'm really eager to play with it. And as I believe I mentioned on a prior episode, I still have, although now I've received most of them, a bunch of GAN chargers, like the really small chargers, to test. I've gotten almost all the ones that I asked for, including the new Aukey one that's 61 watts. That is probably the smallest on the market right now. So I'm really eager to try those out and actually run real power tests on them. I have a load tester, which you recommended, that I have to mess with. It's just been a long couple of weeks, so I haven't gotten to set up and do all those tests, and I was waiting for everything to come in. But and astute longtime viewers will notice that I have a new microphone this week.
Well, they won't yet because it's actually out of frame.
Oh,
but they will during the Piltch Point.
Okay.
They'll see it during the Piltch
you know
Point.
What? They'll notice that the one that I normally had was not in front of me. So there's that.
Yes.
Right. And it's on your recommendation, I got the Neat Microphones Bcaster mic. Wait,
The,
you have
the, U-
right. You have
the USB version of this mic.
yeah. So now we're on the same. Now we are representing for all Pittsburgh Steeler fans everywhere. Although I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but still, our microphones are representing because they're black and yellow.
or
Um,
AKG if you're a pro audio fan. The black
right,
and yellow
but
is off of the AKG pro audio stuff.
it sounds really good. It looks really unique, and it has a feature that my previous Blue Yeti mic, which broke, doesn't have, which is that the USB cable plugs into the base. And looking around, I think this is relevant to anybody who's thinking about buying an external mic or doing podcasting. The Yeti mics, like a lot of the other mics, uh, they have the USB connector in the base of the mic that moves, and so what happens is it breaks a lot.
Yeah.
And if it breaks, and you're out of warranty, as mine is, then you're out of luck. Although there are several videos online of people like opening them up and soldering a new USB port on, which I may try just for the heck of it. But I'm really glad to have a microphone that has a base, and then the USB wire plugs into the base rather than plugging into part of the microphone that is moving and jostling. Um, so anyway, that's what's new in my tech world.
Well, I'm really happy. The sound quality is fantastic, and it makes me happy. But I guess with that, let's get down to some tech news for tonight. This week's Nifty Gifties and F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a laptop, a tablet, a VR headset, Samsung phones, games, an Xbox, you can find it all at the Microsoft Store. And like I said, it's not just Microsoft stuff. There's all kinds of stuff from partners like Samsung and HP, and a whole lot more. And if you're a student or military, you get a discount on almost all of the products. And you can find out about all of that and all the deals that are going on right now by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. So we've talked a couple of times since the lockdown started about Zoom, because more and more people are learning about Zoom and encountering the issues that many of us have known about for a long time. And while the company hasn't entirely necessarily addressed some of its biggest problems, it has announced that it is working to kind of shore up the backside of it. They announced that they were going to do end-to-end encryption for meetings, which is a really cool idea. We're seeing encrypted messaging and chatting kind of becoming the normal across the industry. So it's not terribly surprising to see something like this. But they did announce that only paid users were going to get the capability, which is fine. We're used to in the tech field, having much demanded features be for the paid subscribers. But what we're not really used to is a feature like this being hidden behind a paywall that is kind of designed to hide other issues. So it's a little strange. And the reason why they've explained that they're doing this is kind of the go-to refrain right now in encryption, and it's to protect children and be able to work with law enforcement if there's child exploitation happening on the platform. Which, sometimes the argument works. Although in this case, the only times that I've heard of Zoom being used for that, because there are obviously other encrypted systems already, the only time I've heard Zoom have that problem is when people Zoom bomb, which is the other problem that they haven't been addressing. So, I don't know. It seems weird. Most of the internet wasn't happy with the move, but some people have defended it for the reason for the reason that that Zoom has said. So I don't know. Anytime somebody makes this claim, it makes me feel weird when it comes to encryption, because it seems like they're playing some sort of emotional game.
I don't trust Zoom's motives because if you think about it, so you're saying that if people pay for Zoom, then they can get encryption.
Correct.
But if they don't pay, then they don't get encryption.
Correct.
So either encryption is good or encryption is bad. Why is encryption bad, but only if you're not paying for it?
Right.
I mean, do they think that all of the child predators use the free version, but not the paid?
It sure seems it sure seems like the kind of thing where they're like, well, you know what? If you're only giving it to us for free for $10 or whatever a month, you're gonna encrypt the thing. If that's your goal, $10 a month is nothing. It's just so weird.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's just bogus. That's not a reason. First of all, this harkens back to a really fairly old debate about whether or not encryption should be allowed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, should there be encryption on your phone? Should there be BitLocker encryption on your computer? Should anything ever be encrypted?
Right.
Well, you know, obviously, what we've seen, what a lot of people have seen this week and in prior weeks is that, you know, not everybody really trusts the government to just get to their data and use it and keep it private and use it only for detecting the worst possible crimes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it, you know, obviously we have countries where activists are put in prison, and, you know, some of the things that we see going on in the United States don't lend a lot of confidence in giving the government unfettered access to your data.
True.
So, you know, you could always make that argument. We could get even further. Why don't we just put a camera in everyone's house so the police can watch just in case someone commits a crime? Like, obviously...
I believe those are called Ring doorbells.
Exactly. And you know... I mean, why don't we just, like, you know, don't put, you know, locks on people? We should give, or maybe we should just give, you know, law enforcement a skeleton key to everyone's house,
right?
Like, and just assume that everyone who works for them is only going to go into our house and if they know for sure that we're doing something bad. Like, obviously, the reason for encryption is because whether you trust your or other governments, or you trust that no other people who are non-government actors are going to get a hold of this, of the, you know, back door, or in this case, there's not even a back door because they're just saying that we're not encrypting it.
Right.
So it's not like we're encrypting it, we're getting a back door.
Right.
Like,
it's just open.
That might be an excuse. That might be an excuse if they were, you know, if they really wanted to. They could, oh, you know, we're encrypting this, but we're leaving open a back door for law enforcement or something like that.
Right. But just like Tim Cook said during the San Bernardino thing, he said once a key is created, it's created. Once a hole exists, it's there, and it will get out.
Yeah, no question about it. So this sounds like a really lame excuse from Zoom. I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to come up with a rather nonsensical answer to why they don't want to include it in the free package.
Right.
And the answer is they want to make money on that premium.
For me, just say we're including it in the paid version because this is an expensive service and or
because we have to find some way to make money off it, to monetize this.
Because time limits.
We have to create a division.
Because time limits aren't doing it.
I mean, I've said this before. I don't get Zoom. I don't understand why people like Zoom so much. I really,
especially with all the problems they've had.
A few weeks ago, my father passed away, and we had daily, for a week, we're supposed to have what you call, we're supposed to have daily prayers, let's say, and gatherings with his friends. And obviously because of COVID-19, that didn't happen in person. And so the people who originally were running it used Zoom, and it was a horror show. I mean, maybe I just don't know the secret ways of using Zoom because I don't use it that much, and I wasn't the administrator, but they couldn't mute anybody. And so people were just talking over each other. And then, I suggested we change to Google Meet, and at least on Google Meet, I could go through, and if people were making noise, I could mute them. Because on Zoom, we had one woman, she was on there, and she didn't seem to understand. A lot of these folks were not very tech savvy, and they were older folks of my father's generation. And so there was one woman on there, and she was chewing into while everyone else is supposed to be talking and praying, she's sitting there, and her mouth was right up in the screen. She's chewing.
No.
And then, she talked to someone off camera and was like, "Hey, get me the coffee," or whatever. So at least
that's so funny.
On Google Meet, I could go in and just mute people who were doing that, rather than try to convince them to be quiet.
Yeah.
So, and then people would get kicked off after 45 minutes.
Yep.
And then they couldn't get back on. Google Meet, at least right now, doesn't seem to have a time limit. So I don't get why on earth you would be using Zoom right now.
I don't know. And with all the issues that they've had, the remote camera access, once that happened, I was done with Zoom. There was no more installing Zoom for me.
I don't know why they're popular. I mean, I get Google Meet is not perfect either.
Sure.
I mean, there's certainly an opportunity there for somebody to do a lot better, and this is why I think we were talking about Facebook Rooms the other day. But I don't know. My son's school, they're using, I think, WebEx.
Wow.
For some things. One thing that's good about WebEx, and I'm not aware of at least free Zoom allowing you to do this, is that you can actually put everybody in listen only mode with WebEx.
Yeah.
And you can't easily do that with Meet. I'm not aware of how to do that with Meet, and I'm not aware of how to do that with Zoom.
Yeah, but WebEx is kind of designed for the webinar concept. So being able to put everybody in listen only mode is nice. And having multiple options is fine. I just, like you, I don't understand why people keep hugging Zoom when it seems like this, like the lesser of the platforms. But whatevs, to each his own. I won't install Zoom personally ever since the remote webcam thing, so it's not a problem for me. This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. Whether you're using a phone or a laptop, a desktop, protecting your privacy online is important, and a VPN is really the best way to do that. And PureVPN is a great service that allows you to protect your privacy and report a different location. So if you're out of the country or out of town and you want to be able to get better access to your local sports or your local news or something like that, you can do that. Right now, they've got a deal. You can get a 7-day free trial, which doesn't negate the 31-day money-back guarantee. Plus, you can get $6.49 per month after the trial. It's 99 cents for the 7 days, and then $6.49 per month. And you don't have to sign any kind of contract or anything like that. It's a really great deal. And if you do go for longer, you get better prices. And to find out about all of that, you can go to piltchpoint.live/purevpn. All right, Avram, what have you got for us tonight?
All right. I have to say, for our regular listeners, by the way, as we mentioned prior, here's the new Bcaster Neat Microphones Bcaster mic that I've been using. So I know a lot has been going on lately. I've been talking a lot about one of my favorite topics, which is Raspberry Pi stuff. I promise that next week, even if it turns out that the movie War Games happens for real, and the Joshua computer is based on Raspberry Pi, I won't talk about it because we've talked about it so many weeks in a row. But for now, I want to talk about something interesting and cool that happened in Raspberry Pi world recently, which is that now there is an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi 4. So that is the most gigabytes of RAM that it's ever had. And as a result, there's the operating system strategy has also changed. It used to be that for your Raspberry Pi, you had the official operating system was called Raspbian. It's a form of Linux, and it was 32-bit only. Well, if you know much about operating systems and bits, you know that generally speaking, 32-bit operating systems cannot use more than 4 gigabytes of RAM, which is why most people today have 64-bit Windows. And there's really no reason to have 32-bit unless you have a computer with a processor that is so old that it doesn't support 64-bit. But that would be quite an old computer at this point. Maybe like a netbook with an Atom processor would need 32-bit still. Raspberry Pi now also has a 64-bit version of their operating system, and they've changed the name of both the 32-bit and the new 64-bit operating system to Raspberry Pi OS, which is, very obvious what it stands for. It used to be called Raspbian, but now because the folks who were running the independent Raspbian project were only doing the 32-bit version, and they were allowing all kinds of other Raspbian's actually part of the operating system. It's not the whole kernel and everything, is now called Raspberry Pi OS. But what I wanted to show folks, for those who are watching and not just listening, I've got pulled up here. I'm going to try to do a screen share. I've got pulled up here on my screen a Raspberry Pi 8 gigabyte. And actually, this is running the 32-bit operating system, but it doesn't matter because the 32-bit operating system, Raspberry Pi, actually is able to use all 8 gigabytes. It just can't use them all for more than 4 gigabytes for one process. Mm-hmm. But if you have tabs in a browser, those each count as different processes. So let's look here. I just want to show how much work I had to do to get it to actually even use over 4 gigabytes. So right now it's using 4.2 gigabytes out of 7.8. Really it's 8, but you know how it is with operating systems. They never give you quite exactly the full amount of RAM or storage that you have. Some of it's reserved. So in my browser, I have 60 tabs open. Several of these tabs have 4K videos playing in them, or at least loaded from hdtrailers.net, which is a place that, unlike YouTube, is actually like downloading the trailers. It's not like upscaling or something like that. So it's like in the browser. Like here's one I had downloaded for really not many 4K true 4K trailers that are available for download, believe it or not. Most of the things you find on YouTube are upscales that someone has done. So hdtrailers.net, which has like actual downloadable trailers for things, has like maybe four, and one of them is for the movie Interstellar, from which came out what 8 years ago or something. Um, and so that so I have that loaded, and this other movie which I don't know what it's called. It looks like some kind of nature thing called Samsara, which had like an even bigger 4K trailer. Even with those open in multiple tabs, I'm only using 4.2 gigabytes. Even with several other programs open, including a spreadsheet program, and Scratch Desktop, which is a big programming program, and GIMP, which is the image editor. And I don't have it up here on the screen because I don't have it installed on this machine here, but OpenShot, which is a video editor. In short, the real news is most people probably don't need the 8 gigabyte version, because it's actually, you have to work really hard to get use over 4 gigabytes at this point. Now, maybe in the future with some improvements, some caching, using it to improve performance, using something like running a virtual machine or a fancy server, you could really get over that. You comfortably need that 8 gigabytes. But right now it's just kind of cool that we've gotten to that point. So the 8 gigabyte model is available now for $75. The 4 gigabyte is $55 as it has been, and the 2 gigabyte Raspberry Pi 4. Those are the three capacities: 2, 4, and 8. The Raspberry Pi 4, which is the latest model. So it's $35 for the 2, $55 for the 4, and $75 for the 8. If you already have a 4, for 99% of people, there's not a compelling reason right now to buy an 8. But if you didn't have one and you're thinking, I want to future-proof my investment, I might want to use this as like a real computer rather than just for like building robots and fun projects, then it might make some sense to actually it might make some sense to buy the 8. I'm going to see here if I have one that I can actually show folks what the board looks like. I have one here. I can pull out, I think. Maybe. And it's just unplug the one that I have, because there's a few. You can actually see a physical difference on the board. Yeah, here. Okay. Let's stop sharing my screen and I'll show everybody. So if you see here, this is the Raspberry Pi 4, 8 gigabytes, and if somebody just handed you a Raspberry Pi 4, I don't know if you know anyone who's just handing you Raspberry Pi 4s, or you had a drawer full of them, you don't know which is which. The way you would tell which one is 8 gigabytes, telling between 2 and 4, I don't think is this easy, is there's this, by the USB-C port, there's this like little set of 3 black transistors, or chips. It looks sort of like eyes and a mouth.
Yeah, they do.
Right? That is only on the 8. So on the 4 and 2, you won't see that. So if somebody just throws a Raspberry Pi 4 at you, and you catch it, and you don't turn it on, and you want to know whether it's 8 gigabyte or not, look for near the USB-C port a set of 3 black chips that look like a face, and that will tell you
a slightly shocked face.
Yes, a slightly shocked with no nose, but because you can see here, I think this is a 2 gigabyte I have here, and you can see it doesn't have the face.
Oh yeah,
over there. So it needs that extra power. I think it's extra power support over there because it's using it. It needs it to distribute the power to the more RAM. Other than this, the performance is identical across 2, 4, and 8. So there's not, the CPU is the same, everything else is the same. You're not getting more or less performance CPU performance for having a different amount of RAM. So that's so as I said, new operating system name, 64-bit operating system available now for Raspberry Pi OS, moved up to 8 GB, and in something that is relevant and timely because we do a lot of coverage of other of tutorials and things like that. We also just put up on Friday a tutorial on how to use a Raspberry Pi as a body camera for yourself. Um, I don't. That was done by Les Pounder, our new associate editor, who lives in England. So I don't have one here to show you, but the article is up on tomshardware.com. That uses actually a Pi Zero W, not the Raspberry Pi 4. But that's kind of neat because for about $40 to $50 worth of parts, some of which you may already have, such as like a phone bank for your a power bank for your phone, you can create a little body camera that you stick in your front pocket, assuming you have a front pocket, and use that either like you would a GoPro for sports, jogging, playing with the kids, or if you are attending a protest and you want to make sure that you're capturing things that are going on at the protest. It's also really good for that, and the instructions will show you how to capture the video, and then it will automatically upload to the cloud. Maybe video of a crowd, but it'll be in the cloud, so that if something happens to your camera, like let's say somebody knocks you on the ground, it gets broken, that video will still be saved, and you can share it with people.
Yeah, I saw that tutorial, and I thought that was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, the interesting thing, a little inside baseball about the editorial process behind that was Les. He just started for us this week, but we worked with him a long time on as a freelancer, and I asked him if he could do the story, and he did. And then the first set of pictures he sent us for how he constructed it, he had, gotten someone to basically model it. And the way he had set it up was he had duct taped it to a jacket, and he had the button. There's a button for turning it on and off, right? For enabling a camera, but the button was on a wire, right? Like a long wire.
No.
For those of you who are listening, it looked like a suicide vest.
Oh,
right?
No.
Something that a terrorist might wear. And, and so I had to write to him and be like, can we change this around with advice that we're giving people so it doesn't look suspicious? Because, we don't want people, going somewhere and the police thinking that they're, that they're carrying, that they're wearing,
having
a weapon when it's just a camera.
Having it go the other way, where all of a sudden it becomes the thing that makes you suspicious. That's not better.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, if you look on Amazon or other online stores, there are a lot of body cameras that people can buy pre-made but those are about $150. And I'm not sure if they all go to the cloud. So this is a neat use of Raspberry Pi. A Pi Zero W is $10, and then you will want a camera module, and you'll want a case for it and the battery, but you may already have a phone battery, and you may already have a micro SD card, and so it may actually not, even if you don't have any of those things, it probably still only be $40 or $50. So anyway. I certainly recommend people check it out. We got him to kind of construct it in a way where the button is not hanging off on a wire, so it doesn't look like it's some kind of detonator or something. And it looks more like what it is, which is an innocent camera. But if you've seen a lot of movies where people are doing bad things, you might if you saw the original photo that we didn't use of it, you might think, "Uh-oh, I don't want to be caught wearing this in public because people might think that I'm about to do something bad."
You might recognize the design.
Yeah.
And both of these are up now?
Yeah. So everything is up now. So we have an article. We have an article up on testing of the 8 GB Raspberry Pi 4. We also have a new guide to how to use and which Raspberry Pi 4 you should buy, and we have the tutorial on how to make your own Raspberry Pi body camera. And if you're interested in other projects, we have the projects of June 2020, Raspberry Pi projects of June 2020 that went up this week also. We do that monthly now, where we list the coolest projects that we've seen people doing that month on the internet.
I love that.
One of the cool projects that I am sure will make it into July, because we just reported on this week, is some person, we also have an article on this, some person built a remote control Raspberry Pi robot that drives around their backyard, and you can go online and drive the robot around their backyard yourself.
Nice.
So that sounds like fun. You know,
is it one person can control it at a time, or is it kind of like how Mixer does, like the polling, and if 3 people say it turns left, it turns left?
Good question. I haven't really gone in and tried that. So okay. There are other Project I have seen time. Other sites before where anyone who has it loaded can issue a command. Mm-hmm. I guess this is on the presumption that there's not going to be a lot of people simultaneously driving it in different directions.
Something tells me that'll change if they publish about it.
We did, so we'll find out. Or that person will find out. But it's just, there's a lot of cool, fun things that people do. And what I've always loved and what I continue to love about Raspberry Pi is just the inventiveness mm-hmm. that it gets people to be so creative in doing really neat things. And some of the things are genuinely like, hey, this is pretty useful. Like, I could really use the body camera to go out and record things. But some of it is just, hey, this is a cool thing to try. This is a cool thing to do, and I'm going to do it because I can, not because I absolutely have a burning need. I think it's, if you really love technology, then you probably love doing things or seeing things where people are pushing the envelope. How can I do this in a cooler, different, better way? I think there's so many things in life you could say that about, like, oh, do I need a smart light bulb, or could I just go walk across the room and turn it on and off? Or, get like a timer that plugs into the socket. Yeah, you could do all those things, but isn't it much cooler to be able to do it from an app, or do it from, a voice assistant? So there's just a lot of cool things out there, and we definitely have them covered at tomshardware.com.
Very cool. Well, as always, Avram, I love to hear about the stuff that you guys are working on. I love that there's that upgraded version of the Raspberry Pi 4, because, like you said, with 8 gigs of RAM, that gives kind of a wider scale of things that people can work on top of what we already know about. So I look forward to seeing what's going to come from that.
Yeah, also you have to add in the fact that they just also released, which we've covered and have a tutorial on, how you can use an SSD as your boot drive mm-hmm. for Raspberry Pi. So now you're attaching an SSD to the USB 3 port, and you can boot off of that, and you have 8 gigs. So, and you can output to 2 4K monitors if you want. So, this is becoming a more and more feasible solution for someone to use as an actual computer. Mm-hmm. I don't think I know too many people who would choose this over, like, an x86 desktop or laptop in terms of performance, but it's feasible to use in a pinch, or give to a kid or something like that.
Or even as like a a lockdown computer environment for a very, like a kiosk, a very specific set of
Yeah.
capabilities, it would be an ideal
Yeah.
scenario.
No,
So all kinds of cool stuff coming from
a lot
there.
of things like that.
Yeah. Well, as always, Avram,
Yep.
thank you, and I look forward to what we talk about next. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and console are available from Razer. Whether you need a keyboard and a mouse like we use here in the studio, or you're looking for a gaming headset, or even an entire gaming PC like the Razer Blade 15, you can get all of that from Razer, and there's some great deals running right now. And of course, they've also got the outlet store, which has some incredible deals on it. And to find out about all of that, you can go to f5live.tv/Razer. Now, over the last year, and we've talked about this recently, Epic Games has done a lot to mix up the industry. They have, most recently, they changed the licensing. They changed the licensing on the Unreal Engine. Their big move, of course, was the Epic Games Store, charging way less. I think 18% instead of 30%, which is what Steam charges. They've got the Epic Games Publishing, which is also all about reducing the cost to publishers. But the thing that they did that was kind of the biggest move, I think, was when they launched Fortnite on mobile. They released it as a side load. You could not get it through the Google Play Store. And that was because, again, that big commission for in-app purchases and things like that. They wanted to totally skip the Google Play Store, and they did for a long time. They have since relented and put the game in the store. However, it looks like they might be ratcheting up the fight a little bit, in that they are considering bringing the Epic Games Store to mobile. Now, this would not be the first time that there was a third-party distribution system in the stores. Microsoft's App Center is a great example of it, but the intentions are very different. App Center is for deploying a very like a test version of an app to a very limited number of testers, not for bypassing the store. So this might be, for that purpose, this might be kind of a first, and the kind of thing that I could see both platforms fighting. What do you think, Avram? Can you? I can, for sure, I can see Apple fighting it.
Yeah, I mean, well, Google can't do a lot about it because, fortunately, and to Google's credit, I wonder if they would make the same decision today. Android does allow you to sideload.
Mm-hmm.
It is not on by default, but you can do it.
And 11's going to make it harder. I know. I know.
This is an area where I wonder if Epic, Amazon certainly could also get involved in this. If they make it too difficult to sideload, could they consider that an anti-competitive practice? I mean, because they're locking you into their store. Now, I mean, in Apple's case, that is, you can't even sideload, so, they have an even better case against Apple. It's not difficult, it's impossible to sideload. I mean,
to directly sideload through something like App Center, you can, but yes, it's still, even through App Center, Microsoft had to work with Apple to make that a possibility. And it's not designed for bypassing the store. It's designed for a very specific purpose. So, yeah, I can see Apple fighting this hard.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, the question is who owns your device, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. If it's my device, then shouldn't I be able to install whatever software on it I want? And that means things that Apple has not blessed or Google has not blessed. Um, However, um, you know, it's their operating system. They certainly want to protect users from themselves and but also you have to wonder how much of it is protecting their revenue stream, right? So like they would say, oh, we don't like side loading, we don't allow, and Apple doesn't allow it at all because, oh, we want to make sure that people are you know, protected from bad software. On the other hand, having gone through a nightmare situation with just recently myself with getting a Chrome extension uh, approved through the Chrome web store for the browser, um, where I hadn't had a couple of extensions that had been working for years, and then I made a minor update to them, and they rejected it and kicked me out of the store um, for no good reason, and then I was, you know, you and I talked about this offline. I won't bother the listeners with it too much, except to say that it is not necessarily always easy to get into these stores because the more times that they catch somebody doing something legitimately bad, the harder they make it on legitimate developers.
Yeah.
They really, really make it now really difficult on legitimate developers to get their stuff into the App Store. In addition to also taking a good chunk of money for doing so, let's even say you were making a free app, so money was not a concern. Like, you might put something through. You might want to make a minor update. Like I changed a word here, I changed one line of code. You upload it, and then it takes 3 days to go through an approval process, and then they might just reject it for reasons with no good explanation. Um, so, you know, those, I mean, if you've used it, if you spent any time using Windows or Mac, which I think probably most people have, they realize that it's a different world. Like you just download stuff, you install it, and it's your business and your responsibility. If I download something that has a virus in it, then that's my fault.
Right.
You know, I don't. If it was from the Microsoft store, I would blame Microsoft. But if I had the ability to just go to any site that offers downloads and download something, then that's my responsibility.
Right.
And you know what? It's
And it's your device
that comes with responsibility.
It's your device. You made a decision. It was a bad one. That's your problem.
Right. But, under the guise of protecting people from themselves, Google and Apple want you to get things from their store, but really they have a financial interest. They want to get their cut.
They want that 30% commission.
Anything that's sold. That's where the most of their money is coming from. And what would really get them is if somebody came out with an alternative app store that was more attractive to developers and was easy enough to install and manage from a user perspective.
Yep.
Yes, you can get, it's good that Android lets you, you can install the Amazon. I don't know of anybody who does, but you can install the Amazon App Store and use that. I think there are actually some things you have to have the Amazon App Store for, right? Do you have to have it to install Prime Video?
You used
at
to.
this point?
You used to, but you don't anymore.
Or is it? Oh, okay. So, there's things like that where, okay, you have, and now if you want to play Fortnite, you have to have you have to have this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, it's good that they're doing this. It's bringing competition, and I hope it remains uh, easy enough for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we learned from Google, from the example of Chrome browser, is just because something is a default piece of software doesn't mean people will stick with it.
Right.
I mean, if you had asked me when Chrome came out, when did Chrome come out? 2008, 2009, something like that. 2010. It's been at least 10 years.
Yeah.
If you had asked me when Chrome came out, are people going to install Chrome? Is it going to be a success? I would have said no. I think I did say no, because Internet Explorer was preloaded on Windows machines, and I figured a lot of people are just going to take the path of least resistance, and they're going to use what comes preloaded.
Yeah.
When the difference between the preloaded and the not preloaded is, to the untrained eye, not, they both browse the same internet.
Right.
But wow, was I wrong? Like, people, they made a better piece of software, and as a result,
and
Chrome
Google
is infinitely more popular.
And Google pushed it hard.
Yes, I mean, they weren't exactly a nobody. I mean, they were Google, so they had you in. They were in your life anyway.
Yeah, and they used that opportunity to talk about it. You'd sign into Gmail, and it would have a banner across the top. Your experience could be better if, with a download link. They did talk it up a lot if you were using Google services. But okay, people didn't have to say I agree.
Right. They managed to overcome a serious problem,
and a human nature problem.
A huge, the human nature is just to use what's preloaded.
Yeah.
So, when you think about it, a better app store could beat the Play Store
for sure. And if it's like you said, if it's more attractive to game developers, especially that 18% instead of 30% commission, that could be big, and it could really change the mobile landscape in a good way. So I hope it happens. Obviously, Apple will fight it with everything that they have, but like you said, there are already third-party app stores like Amazon, so on Google. So it might go there, it might work, and it's certainly the place it would start. Without a question, it's the place it would start. So we'll see if it happens, but I think it would be a good thing if it does. This week's news from the tubes and F5 Live is proudly powered by Riff Tracks. Make fun of movies, or let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities like The Crawling Hand. I don't know what to do with that. The way it works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, play it along with your DVD, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, wherever the movie happens to exist, and laugh. They also do live events, and you can purchase and own those live shows. No DVD required. And to find out about the live events, the full-length feature films, and of course the short films, like I Can Do It Myself. Oh my god. You can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. Showed a trailer for one of the short films, and it was just as weird as you would expect. Anyway, so we were just talking about Google and Chrome and their surprise dominance in the space. And this week, something interesting happened. A class action lawsuit was filed in California against Google about Chrome. And the suit alleges that Google violates the Federal Wiretap Act, which prevents the interception of communications. It was originally written to protect people talking on the phone, on a wireline phone, and it has since been expanded several times over the years. So the reason that the suit says that they believe this is because in incognito mode, Google can still track you, which is true. And in fact, if you open up a Google incognito window, it tells you exactly what it does. It says, now you can browse privately and other people who use this device won't see your activity. However, your activity might still be visible to websites you visit, your employer or school, and your internet service provider. Well, yeah. Of course, it's still the internet. The incognito mode didn't change the way the web works. It doesn't disable JavaScript. It's not Tor. So this whole lawsuit is based around a complete misunderstanding of what incognito mode is versus a VPN service.
Yeah, I mean, it's also not called privacy mode.
Right.
In
fairness, in Edge, it is called in private browsing, but.
So, I mean, it does point to. So, first of all, I don't know how this should be laughed out of court because the number one thing I think any lawsuit is looking for is were users or consumers or whoever was taking advantage of a service given clear warning of whatever, and it couldn't be clearer than every single time you open an incognito window.
Yeah, it's not. It's not like it's hidden deep in the terms of service and the EULA that nobody's going to read. It is shown every time you open a window. Other than it screaming and saying, "Hey, this is how it works," I don't think you can be more clear.
Yeah. Also, if you've spent any time using incognito window, you will notice that you can log into services using the incognito window. So you're not now like, I've experienced this recently, right? Like, yes, when you open incognito window, the fact that you were logged into Gmail or Facebook or whatever is not saved, but you have access to the passwords that are. So like, the autocomplete for your password is available in the incognito window, and then it once you're logged in, obviously any place that you've logged into knows what you're doing.
Sure.
I think the best way to think of incognito, correct me if you don't agree, is it's like a clean slate for that moment. But once you open the clean slate, you're still filling it.
Yes.
Right. Like
absolutely.
Your cookies are gone until you visit a website, and then it plants cookies.
Right. But as soon as you close it, they're gone again, which is what it's for.
Right. Yeah.
The intention is, and I know Google would probably argue with me about this only because they don't want people to think about it this way. But we all know why incognito mode was created. It was so you could look at adult content on your computer and other people in the house wouldn't know what you looked at. And there's no pretending that that's not where incognito mode came from.
I will tell you what I use incognito mode for. I actually use it quite a bit, but there's a very, very specific purpose that I use it for that most people probably wouldn't care. As the proprietor of a website, I want to know what our Google rankings are. And I don't know for a fact that this is a perfect way of doing it, but that Google will give you search results based on what it knows about you. So you've logged into your Gmail, all this stuff, even if you logged up, probably has cookies on you. So if I'm searching, it'll probably give me Tom's Hardware as one of the top results because it knows I go there a lot.
Right.
But I want to see what a neutral person would see if they searched for like best CPU. I want to know how we're ranking, like where we are. When is our article for about the best CPUs number 1 or is it number 5? So so that's when I open an incognito window and I do a search, use it for doing Google searches to try to avoid Google giving me special results that are just for me and giving me the results of sort of a theoretical neutral person.
I do the exact same thing.
I don't know what other people are using it for.
I use it for exactly that. I also use it for if I need to sign into a secondary Microsoft account, which is different than the one that I'm signed into on the computer. It's easiest to open an in private browsing window. I don't use Chrome, I use Edge, but it's all the same concept. And so I can sign into the Microsoft account that we use for the show on this computer without having to sign out and lose all my other stuff. Things like that. That's my primary use for it.
Yeah, that's another really good point is if you've got multiple accounts on the same service, it can be really difficult to switch back and forth between them, even Google accounts, right? So like I have a work one and I have a home one, and it's a real big pain because it's like every single time I go to Gmail, it wants to show me my home one, even when I'm doing my work, and then I gotta switch. But then there are other ones where it's nearly impossible.
There are certain Google services that if you're signed into multiple, you can't switch between. If you it might be Webmaster Tools. When you sign into it, it forces you to sign out of everything and try again. It's like incognito mode time.
There have been a few of those that I've had to deal with. We had to do something with like an API console or something.
The developer console
an old account that somebody who no longer works there had, and so I had the login for it. But I want to log out of every other account that I had.
Yep.
Another solution
is like, hooray, incognito mode.
Another solution is to have like a browser that you don't normally use. Like, let's say you never use Firefox, but you keep it just for this purpose.
I'm gonna give my funny example of that. I have on my development computer, I have the full new Edge. I have the development new Edge and I have the beta new Edge all installed. And I use different ones for different environments. So like the proper one is my personal one and beta is for my business one and dev is for my development stuff. So
so so that's a reason why you might want incognito. But every time you log into one of those accounts, obviously,
you've associated yourself.
You're getting tracked on. You've associated yourself. Now, I mean, I guess the good news about incognito window is even though you're being tracked, I guess there is a point at which you are getting more privacy through the incognito window, to be fair, right? Because if you open an incognito window a new incognito window, every time you go, it's not saving that cookie for your next session. So
and
you close the browser, it's all gone.
And you're a new user every time. And in fact, I read a research paper this week that came out after this lawsuit, where they showed, I don't know, it might have already been out, but it was published again because of the lawsuit, where the guy went and he opened regular Chrome. He went and signed into his things. He went and browsed the internet. He did all this, but he did it on a site that he created specifically for this, like a specific domain. So he goes and he wanders the site and all these things, and then he opens incognito mode and followed the exact same path without logging into his Google account. And in the end, in his Google Analytics, it showed 2 users, both with the same IP address, but it absolutely reported him as 2 different people. So if he didn't sign into his Google account, so it didn't associate it to him. But of course, it recognized that you were on a website. It's not like Google. It's not like Google or the Facebook tracking pixel or something like that is going, hey, are you in incognito mode? All right, I'll just turn off JavaScript. Like I said, it's not Tor. It's a very different thing.
Now, to be fair, you can disable cookies, right? So that's another step, and you don't need to be an incognito to do that. You can. There are settings in every browser to disable cookies on a site-by-site basis, or overall. Your experience will be massively damaged on some sites
because you may not be able to stay signed in.
Anything that involves a login.
Yeah,
anything that involves logging in, you really need cookies. But I don't know if you're just going to read a news site or something like that. It
may not be required.
Site at Tom's Hardware or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not, if you're not logging into our forums or whatever, the cookies are, used for ads and things like that, which, in my opinion, are not really that bad. I mean, they're just trying to give you better quality ads. Like, you're going to get ads one way or the other.
Right.
So
because
do you want
without
targeted ads or not?
Without the tracking cookies, the things you're going to see are going to be like the generic PSA type things about, STDs and mental health, all the weird like PSA type ads, which are way weirder than an ad for Restream or something like that.
Yeah,
So personally, I'd rather have the more targeted stuff because the ads are way less weird. But I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think this needs to be laughed out of court. I don't think there's a way that it isn't. But it's California, so maybe. But I don't think that there's any way this thing stands laugh test. So, fingers crossed. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. In addition to your free shipping, there's a lot that you get with a Prime subscription, like Amazon Prime Music, which gives you millions of tracks available to stream for free. You get Amazon Prime Video, which is TV, movies, documentaries, and more, with original and licensed content available for free. You get Twitch Prime, which gives you one free subscription on Twitch, which allows you to financially support the content creator of your choice. You also get free games every month, and the games lately have been really cool. If you are a fighting game fan, now is the time to check out Twitch Prime for sure. And of course, there's a whole lot more. We've put our favorites together, and if you don't have an Amazon Prime subscription already, we have a 30-day free trial, and all of that is available by going to f5live.tv/prime. So Netflix is an interesting company. Its history is fascinating. It started by putting DVDs in the mail and sending them to your house, and then pivoted to streaming. And they pivoted so hard that they tried to spin off the DVD business to its own brand, which was abandoned before it happened because it was a terrible idea. But recently, as they have created higher and higher quality original films, they have tried to put themselves up for awards, and many of the awards require them to run in a theater for a certain period of time, which has caused them some trouble. And so a slight pivot back to physical media has happened within the company. And this week they took that possibly to an extreme. And that extreme is that they purchased a movie theater. And it's not just any movie theater. It's actually an iconic location in Hollywood. It's the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. It was built in 1922. It is absolutely beautiful. It ran for many decades, being the home to things as big as the silent film adaptation of Robin Hood. That was where they premiered the film. So it's been around a long time. It's had a lot of history to it. It shut down for a while. A nonprofit organization called American Cinema. I don't know. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because it's weird. Purchased the property, renovated it, reopened it in 1998, and has operated it since. And Netflix picked it up this week. They will work with that organization to renovate it once again, so that it's able to support more modern content. But they will work in partnership with the former owners to operate it. And the intention is to be able to do big premieres there, to do limited run presentations, and of course special events, which of course means that Netflix is going to use it to run their original content so that they can be eligible for Academy Awards. It's not the weirdest idea ever. They do lease a theater in New York City, another iconic theater, the Paris Theater. But they don't own that one. This definitely pushed it up a little bit. But I like the idea that as they're going harder into the film, into the movie genre, and putting a lot of time and effort and money into that part of their business. I like the idea that they're using some of that to maintain and keep open this 100-year-old movie theater with a lot of history in Hollywood. I think that's kind of a cool idea. Even if the intention is to use it for themselves, I like the idea that they're gonna kind of save this piece of movie history. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I was just sorry for the noise. I was looking at Netflix to see what piece of content they've spent money on that was obviously a waste of money, that this theater is worth more than. Like, could they have not paid Adam Sandler for this movie deal that they had with him and instead spent it on movie theaters, because that would have been a better use of their money? Or maybe not spending however many tens of millions that they paid Will Smith to make Bright, or not doing a more recent example, not filming Space Force or whatever. Like, whatever.
Space Force was funny.
Okay, you know what? I shouldn't talk. I haven't seen it. I've just read a lot of horrible reviews of it.
Space Force.
So
for a first season comedy, Space Force was funny. It is The Office in the government. It is perfect.
Okay, I should not talk. But so I was trying to find some examples of things that are clearly, because Netflix has thrown around a lot of money, as we talked about before, on paying to create content. So, obviously they've got money to burn. Sometimes I wish they would burn it on some better content, but some of the content is, they throw so much stuff at the wall that a lot of it for me sticks. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of it doesn't, but some of it does.
Here's one for you. Queer Eye in Japan. That's a thing they didn't have to throw money at. That one was weird.
Who knows? I actually really like when Netflix invests money in non-US productions, non-US shows. I think that's because I do like, that's one thing I do like on Netflix, is that they are bringing me some. I love to watch shows from other countries. Really get a feel of what a show from another country is like and whatever. So I love that they actually.
There's that one that they just published sometime this week. It's a Mexican drama or something. It was actually advertised to me in the header, which for a foreign project to be advertised in the American header of the app is a pretty big deal.
I mean, I absolutely, my favorite Netflix show is Dark, and that is German show.
Yes.
And that is
someday
going to come back for a third and final season. So
that show is so weird.
I digress. Oh, it's so.
I love it.
Yes, but
I love it, and it's so weird.
It's such a beautiful show.
Yes, it
Oh, if
is.
you haven't seen Dark, folks, watch Dark. What a
Absolutely.
great show.
And
Anyway,
push past
just
the first
everything
episode,
about it.
because the first episode's a little odd and doesn't get you into the story enough, I don't think. So push through, get to the second episode, and you'll be like, oh, I see where we're going.
I just like the music and the atmosphere and the cinematography of it.
It's a beautiful show.
Anyway, so, you know, why not, considering that Netflix has money to spend on that kind of stuff, why not buy a movie theater? Movie theaters are struggling. It probably, I mean, this one is obviously historic, so it might cost more than others, and it probably, to renovate it will cost more than others. But I mean, you also, to me, this also reminds me of, it's funny how you see companies that made their money online kind of going into physical retail, like Amazon, for example. Like, right? Amazon going into, now they bought, they bought Whole Foods.
They've got the cashierless convenience store concept.
Right. Yeah, yeah, we had one near my office.
Oh, really?
Don't know if it'll still be there whenever you come back, but yeah,
sure.
they had just opened one right outside, and
Nice.
Andrew, who was one of our senior editors, went there, and he and our managing editor Matt Safford also went there, and they said, convenient, but the food that they made there was not very good. So I wasn't really tempted to go because the food was not supposedly not good. But anyway,
I'd go just to see it.
Yeah, I probably should. I'm just bringing lunch every day, so cheap, and I'm gonna go, and it was expensive too. Like, but anyway, so yeah, they probably have a really good case now because it's completely contactless, right? You don't pay for, you walk out with the food.
Yep.
You don't have to put your credit card through or deal with the cashier or anything. So, in that respect, it's actually more COVID friendly than probably any place.
And more, I would say way more timely than they expected it to be.
Yeah. So, so why not? I just love going to a movie palace.
Yeah.
So, here in there's not a lot of places left like that. Here, where I grew up in Rockland County, New York, we have one called the Lafayette Theater, which has been there since 1926. And it is, and I remember seeing like all the movies there when I was a kid. And when it came time to take my son to see a movie, and he's very like reluctant to sit still at a movie, and we're like, listen, we'll get you to come see a movie. We went there to take him to the Lafayette Theater because this was such a big place for me. And then we sat there, and like the ceiling is beautiful. It's got all this like decor, I don't know how to describe, like all this like great, like artwork on the ceiling, and all that stuff. But then you go and sit in the chairs, and while they had kind of renovated the ceiling and stuff like that, the chairs hadn't changed since at least when I was a kid. So they were all ripped up, and it wasn't like, most of the time when you go to a movie theater now where you have like a really nice chair that reclines, and there was this like hard old school chairs. It was cold. It was like, wait, why did I want to go here? Oh, because it's like an old fashioned movie palace. So I think if Netflix buys this place and they, renovate it so that it maintains the glamour of old school Hollywood, but it has modern amenities like, nice seats. I think that would be
modern.
That would be wonderful.
Modern projection, modern audio.
Yeah.
All while looking like a classic 1922 movie palace. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what they did with the Paris and Manhattan which, by the way, is the sole surviving single screen theater in Manhattan. They brought it up to, they maintained its 1948 feel while bringing the technology up to date. And they did that last year. And so now they'll have the bi-coastal thing. They'll have, a nice Netflix managed property in New York. They'll have a nice one in Hollywood. They'll be able to do these premieres on both coasts, do big events on both coasts. I think this is a good thing for Netflix, and I think it's a good thing for them to be thinking about, because they could have bought an AMC in a couple of weeks for probably pretty cheap, but the idea...
Oh, but that's a bigger commitment, because then they have to run a whole...
Well, they could have only
they
used...
could buy one branch of AMC.
That's what I mean. They could have just bought an AMC theater, just one location, and only used a single screen, and it probably would have been almost free. But I like the idea that they're really leaning into this whole modern and classic combination feel. So I think that's a cool thing, because they're trying to show that they are respectful of the industry that they're involved in, which, a couple of the big actors, I think Tom Hanks and George Clooney have been two of the loudest ones. I think that it's those two, about how Netflix doesn't have respect for the industry and all that. And here they're showing, no, this is 100-year-old movie theater. We're trying to keep it because it's important to the industry. So I think it's good all around. Well, that is our show. Thank you to those of you who joined us live. We had a number of people in the chat room. Thank you for that. If you didn't join us live and would like to in the future, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, you can go to f5live.tv/join us and chat with us in the chat room during the show. We love that. If you aren't able to join us live, that is okay. You can always go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe, and there you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live, Piltch Point, PLUGHITZ Live Presents, and a lot more, and all the different ways that you can subscribe. And I think, before we go, a reminder that this week through the Drew Project, we have those two events, one on kind of a race in America conversation, and one about mental health on Wednesday and Thursday. Check that out at the Drew Project on Facebook to see the calendar. And with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.